All right. And we are live, and it's telling me my Wi Fi is unstable, which I'm not surprised,
No,
but working through. So, first of all, welcome everyone. This is, I think, our third or fourth, maybe fourth or fifth. I don't
fourth.
remember.
I think it's a
Fourth, I
fourth. It's
think.
been a while.
Yep. Um, had a lot of things going on. Just haven't had a chance to get out here and do some new podcasts, but we're looking forward to getting back to it. And we figured, we'd start out with probably one of our more interesting cases that we've had in the 10, 15 years we've been doing investigations. um, as a lot of viewers probably are aware of, there was one case that was pretty viral about a baby seeing something in its room, and it looked up and it looked like something passed by, and it wound up being shared on the second episode of the first season of Ghost Nation, where the group from TAPS came out and investigated it. I was actually on that episode where we kind of discussed the video that they caught. And so we're going to take a step back to when we first went into this house and investigated. And it was back, I think, in 2013, 2012, somewhere in that
I think
area.
it's 2012, 2013. The
Yeah.
first time we went there.
Yep. So we're going to do a two-parter for this one. We're going to show you some of the things that we caught and discuss some of our experiences in this house in Highland, Michigan, from our for our first investigation. And we're going to follow that up probably in a week or 2 weeks, somewhere in that area. We haven't figured that out yet. With the second part, where we're going to delve deeper into the video of the baby that saw the something or other in the room, and how we kind of approached that investigation and some of the evidence that we caught at the second investigation at that house in 2019. So, a little bit of background on this house. It was built back in 1934. And the family that built it owned it until approximately 2005, 2006, somewhere in that area. Uh, Originally, we had heard that the rumor that the person that owned the house, Dorothy, had tripped, fallen, and broken her hip and laid on the ground for several days before eventually passing away. Um, Thankfully, with the TAPS team coming in to do that investigation, they were able to dig a little bit deeper. They have a lot more resources than we have to look into some of these claims. They were able to find out that Dorothy did not, in fact, fall and break her hip when she passed away, but she actually passed away from heart failure, it sounds like, in one of the bedrooms in the house. So while she did pass away in the house, it was not from a accident where she fell and broke her hip. Um, there was also, the story of, you know, Timothy, who was Dorothy's son, who apparently committed suicide. That, in fact, they found out was not the case as well, which is great to find out that unfortunately he passed away from diabetes, but not in that house at that time. So it was unfortunate to hear about their passing, but at the same time, it's good to get the truth out there. I think that was a big part of the great experience of having TAPS come out and investigate that house. That when they were looking into that video with the baby. So
Right. And everything that they had told us about Dorothy and her son, it was what they heard or what they were told when they moved in.
yeah,
So that was the information that they had. I mean, they had no way of really going through and researching and finding anything like that. Even when we tried finding out more information, we had a hard time. The people that we called, the records that we checked. So yeah, we were able to fortunately get more information when Jason, Steve, and Dave came out.
yeah, and that was really cool. I'm very thankful that they came out and were able to help the owners of the home, and really helped us to understand a little bit more about that house. That was really cool. One of the things they talked about was the fact that there was a pretty impressive tie to Indian mounds out in that area. Did you want to touch on that, Steve?
Sure. Yeah, because I mean, we try to do some research of the homes in the areas that we go to, and this is one of the things that we even talked about when we first went out there because of the location. Um, a little bit of background. So for people that aren't familiar with like the mound builders, so in the Great Lakes region, um, it was thought that the first inhabitants of that area were actually the people who started building the mounds that were found all over the state. And this, they keep referring to it as pre-Columbian times. So this is before Columbus sailed to the New World, before settlers and all that were coming here. So they have records that show that some of it was started about 3,500 BC when these people first started entering the region and building these things. Um, Even after the original mound builders vanished, they either moved or they merged with other cultures, or who knows what happened to them. When Native American groups started moving into the area, they continued adding to those mounds. They adding to burying people up, putting their possessions, building the mounds up. So it was a nonstop process until settlers came through. Some were really intricate, the shapes of animals. They even had some that were pyramid shapes. The majority in Michigan were the classic mounds. Some were huge. There was records of one, they referred to it as the Great Mound of River Rouge, which for anybody that's familiar with the area of Detroit, River Rouge is about southwest of Detroit. There were reports that mound was over 200 feet long, 300 feet wide, and about 20 feet tall. So pretty impressive building. But like so many others, when the settlers moved in and they started to push the Native Americans out because they wanted the land, they destroyed the mounds. They dug them up. They took out, whatever was in there. I mean, they found axes, chisels, pottery, treasure, human remains, even evidence of cremation burials. And they just literally just razed them all to the ground and threw everything away and just, devastated the area. And there's still a few left, depending on where you're at in the state, but a lot of them are protected now. Some are even on private land that the owners will not let people go out and even investigate, which is a good thing because we don't want to lose that part of history. Another fact about the mound builders is the area that we live in, just north of Detroit, there's actually a road called Mound Road. Runs through Detroit, city of Warren, city of Sterling Heights. The reason it's called Mound Road is because the sheer amount of mounds that were found in the area. They just named the road after it because of what was going on there. And even like was talked in the episode, we looked at a lot of these mounds go along with the Native American trails that go all through the state. And those began being traveled by the traveler or by settlers, using those traveler. Oh, I keep double talking here. I apologize. Settlers were traveling along those trails, and it just became eventually part of the infrastructure. The Saginaw Trail, it was one of the largest in the state, went all the way from Toledo to the Mackinac Straits, up at the tip of the thumb. For anybody in Michigan, how we check our maps. Parts of that you can find, Dixie Highway leading through Flint is part of that trail. St. Joseph Trail headed westbound out of Detroit area. That's part of I-94 now along that path. And even the Sioux and Green Bay Trail that ran across the lower portion of the Upper Peninsula, which is now part of US 2, which is one of the most traveled roads in the state. And honestly, one of my favorite ones to travel on as well. So yeah, there's a lot of history with Native Americans moving through those areas. I don't know if anybody that's seen the episode, they go a little bit more in depth. They show some maps and how some areas in that portion of the state map up or match up to where those trails were.
Yeah, and I think that's the thing is, even if there is some sort of paranormal activity in some of these places that maybe isn't necessarily always tied to Native Americans that were there, doesn't mean that that it's not because of that in some way. That's a lot of energy that's built up in these places, and disturbing some of those mounds could have created the opportunity for maybe other entities to feed off that energy. We've talked about it before, that a lot of times you'll use a video camera and your battery gets drained and something's happening. So there's energy that's out there that these spirits are trying to feed off of. So even though we may not have a Native American spirit in the house or anything like that we can prove, if there is activity, it could still potentially be linked back to that, just as an example. So let's talk about the house itself, our first investigation. We first went out there.
Let me say one thing real quick. So anybody who's watching right now, Mike's video is a little choppy. I don't know. He probably doesn't see it, but new area, new internet connection. So we're working on that. So if you see the choppiness, that's why.
So hopefully, there you go. Hopefully when we play the videos, they're not choppy. We'll cross our fingers and see what happens. Right. So when we got to the house, we started investigating, and we had some personal experiences. I know myself personally, I was upstairs in the attic in the house, and everybody knows you kind of have your personal space. You don't like somebody coming into your personal space. I happened to be in the attic by myself, and I heard some noise, so I turned my flashlight on looking for anything, whether it's animal droppings or something that's moving. Didn't see anything, didn't catch anything. And I turned my flashlight back off, and I felt something just come right up to my face, to the point where I'm like, yep, I'm out of here. Boom, I'm gone. And I mean, this was what, 2 years into investigating, I think, at this point, 2 to 3.
Yeah, we were relatively new.
Yeah, I like to say we were young and dashing. We're not that anymore, but that's okay.
I'm just old and debonair.
There you go. I like that. I'm just old and bald. Um, so even then, we were both relatively new to this, and yeah, I got spooked. I was like, I didn't never had something come up into my face that made me want to bolt. So I turned and got out of that room pretty quickly. And of course, everybody was teasing me about it, but it happens. I think any good paranormal investigator will have that moment at some point in their career where something kind of creeps them out enough to, we're like, yeah, no, I'm good. I'm gonna step away for a moment. So that was my experience there. And then we went down into the basement, and you had this was towards the later in the evening. You had a good couple of investigators down there with us. I think there was probably about 4 of us with the homeowners. And I'm going to let Steve talk about this, something that we experienced there that we've never seen anywhere else. So I'm going to let Steve kind of run with that and explain what we saw and what that experience was like.
Right. So in the basement, there was an additional room, which now it's kind of a work storage room, but at the time it was set up for the daughter as a bedroom. And she had experiences and she had claims in there of seeing, like shadow people crawl out of the corner of the ceiling, voices, things touching her. Even when we were in the room, she said she felt something that was touching her leg. Well, where we were sitting, and I was sitting on one side of the bed, Mike was sitting in a chair, and our field of view was outside the bedroom into the laundry area. And we had a camera rolling. It was looking in a different direction. We had set it down, and I'm staring out into this laundry room, and I'm seeing sparks of light, just like little pops, little sparks all over the place. I mean, kind of like if you rub your eyes really hard and you get that star pattern. It wasn't quite like that. It was more centralized. It was the actual, almost like a sparkler, like somebody was running through there with a sparkler, even to the point to where it looked like there were strings that were sparking, and it just kind of just hovering in the air. And I'm thinking, myself, am I having an aneurysm? I mean, what's going on? I mean, I'm literally seeing these weird things. And then I kind of nudged you. I'm like, hey, Mike, do you happen to see something out there? And you're like, yeah, I'm seeing sparks flying around in the room. So we both were seeing it. And of course, I mean, at the time, like I said, we're relatively new in the whole investigative, and neither one of us thought to grab the video camera because we're like focused. It's like, this is pretty amazing, and
we didn't know what it was. It was weird, and still never seen it anywhere else yet.
And it went on for like almost about 5-6 minutes. We're just sitting there watching these sparks fly in the room, and again, you're right. I've never seen anything like that since then. I don't think I've even seen it on videos where people post other, from investigations. I'm sure people have probably experienced it. I mean, we can't be the only ones who have ever seen anything like that. Mm-hmm. But even afterwards, I mean, we go out, we try to figure out what could have been causing, because, the furnace was there. There's other electrical outlets, they have bad wiring. I mean, is like, the house going to catch fire because it's like it's electrical, sparking all over the place. But we couldn't find anything in that area that would have caused sparks to fly through the air.
Yeah, we don't want everybody to think that we saw sparks and we're like, oh, it has to be paranormal, let's just ignore it. No, we were trying to figure out, because we were like, is there something wrong electrical? Is this house going to catch on fire? Do we want to let them know?
Right, because they weren't casting a light. Like normally, like you see a spark and you can see, like, it brightens things up. I mean, like you have a sparkler and you run it outside, you're near something, you see the light from it. It wasn't casting a light.
Right. The one that was interesting was, as we're standing there, there was one spark that it like moved. So a lot of times just these little blips of light, right? Very, very faint. But then one just kind of went pew, across the room, and like, what the heck was that? And still have no idea what that was, but it was a very interesting experience and one of our personal experiences that we had there. But like Steve said, we were new to the field, didn't think about getting a camera and recording it. But again, a lot of times you're doing investigations, your personal experiences carry weight. Well, even though you can't, show somebody else, it's still a fun experience to have.
And I don't think I know when we explain that to the homeowners, I don't think they ever said that they've experienced anything like that either. They've had other things, they've had boots go missing and show up weeks later, and things moved around and being touched and everything. Classic, paranormal experiences that most people have.
Yeah. Any other personal experiences you want to talk about of our first investigation before we move into showing some of the evidence?
First investigation, I mean, other than, hearing footsteps, we heard those all through the house. We'd be up in the attic area or in the upstairs room with the entrance to the attic storage where you had your experience. I mean, we would hear what sounded like people coming up the stairs or moving around in the kitchen, which was at the bottom of the stairs. We saw the shadows that the homeowners talked about moving from the kitchen across the dining room. They talked about that on the episode of Ghost Nation too, where they would see something moving through the hallway. That's, and we did experience that from the living room area where she was tripped walking down the steps. So I mean, again, classic, experiences that you would hear from most places. It just, a lot of us experience that, which is unique in most cases because you hear claims, you go and you talk and you try to find out and you try to replicate it. A lot of times you don't have those experiences that the person who contacted you does. And we did.
Yeah, that was really cool.
And every time, because we've been out there, 3 times before we're out there with Ghost Nation, and we experienced all these things every time we've gone there.
Yeah, I don't count out the fact that we may wind up going back again sometime in the near future. I've had conversations with Chris about that maybe a year or so ago, so that may be an opportunity for us to get back out there and take a look at that. So we'll have to wait and see.
And again, with everything that's gone on out there, I mean, we have gotten to know them very well. So anytime something does happen, they do reach out to us. I mean, we've, especially even with like the video that you made mention, which we'll talk about, more in the part 2, because we were the first ones that actually, I think we were the only ones that were out there after that video went viral internationally.
Yeah.
So,
yes.
So that's part 2.
And I think that's the great part about what we do is we build relationships. We don't just go into houses and investigate and be like, oh, look what we caught. We truly try to build relationships. And I think, these homeowners were 2 that, we've built a really good friendship with over the years because of our investigations there. And I think that's kind of a really, really cool experience. So let's get into some of the evidence that we caught there. This one piece was a video piece of evidence that one of my personal favorites. I'm upstairs investigating with Jonathan, one of our investigators, and we caught something. We're going to play it, and then we'll talk about it, and then we'll go into the some of the other things we caught. But let's go ahead and start with this real quick. Hopefully this plays smooth. If it doesn't, we'll figure something out for next time.
I've just never seen random K2 hits like that.
Yeah.
Did you just hear something? I heard a voice say, oh, here we go. Is your voice recorder going?
It's recording.
Rewind that. I want to hear that. I can't. I know I heard something like that.
So we're letting this play out right now so you can see the unedited version of what occurred. Sometimes it takes time to review it live.
Holy crap. Did you hear that? Did you hear that?
Wait a second.
Did you?
Wait a second. Wait.
That's so weird. You heard that, right?
Wait.
Was that you?
I don't know.
Holy shit.
Wait a second.
I gotta go check the room real quick. Come on.
Hey guys. Guys.
So go ahead and pause it for just a second, Mike. So the thing is, like, again, we've talked about this in previous episodes. Going back to our prior investigations gives us insight into how we need to approach an investigation.
Mhm.
So, I mean, this is, really cool because it was an audible EVP. You guys heard it.
Technically,
gone
it's a
back-
disembodied voice.
Yes, disembodied voice. Hey, you're right.
Yeah.
I
You're
use
good.
different terminology. I'm sorry.
Yep. You're good.
But even, you heard it. We can hear it on the tape. You can hear it on the recorder. It's cool,
And the logistics of it were interesting because I was farther away from where Jonathan was, and my camera was sitting there next to me. You just saw it, and when I finally walked in the frame, I was walking away from my camera. So watching the video, I heard something faint with my own ears. The camera picked it up very faint, but then Jonathan, who didn't hear anything, goes back and plays it on his voice recorder, and it's louder on his voice recorder than it was on the camera. So you heard me ask if that's him or not. We don't really need to go further into this video. It's a longer video. You get some other people that come up and listen to it. At first, all I heard was the, "Oh yeah." But then as we started listening, we started hearing it say, "Oh, here we go. Oh yeah," which was interesting. So let's go back and let's watch this from the beginning. And you'll hear me clear my throat, which I tend to still do to this day. And then the EVP happens, and you can see that Jonathan is not talking or anything of that sort.
I've just never seen random K2 hits like that.
Yeah.
You can't really see him. I didn't realize his head was cut
Did
off.
you just hear something?
One more time.
Did you just hear something?
One more time.
Did you just hear something?
And it's faint, but if we go forward to the point where we listen to it on his voice recorder.
Holy crap.
So it was the "oh, here we go" that I caught the first time. It wasn't the "oh yeah" that I didn't catch that the second time. But yeah,
Right.
you can. It's
You
louder.
can
on his
clearly
voice.
hear it, even over the video. And
Yes.
again, talking back about how we approach our investigations and do things, we didn't get documented, everybody's evidence. Because I don't know because on our file server where you have the storage of our evidence at,
Mhm.
there is no audio files of Jonathan's voice recorder. So everything that we have here is from the videos.
Right.
And again, we've gotten better equipment now, better process, better software. We're more aware of how we handle our evidence. So
I do know that we do have his audio recording somewhere.
yeah, but
Because I've heard it, but I don't know where that's at. That's one of those things that we're trying to figure out where that disappeared off to.
right. And another couple things I like to point out is that room behind Jonathan. That's the room where you had your personal experience. You were back in there, door closed, something walked up in your space. And also, I love you, brother, but that hat.
Come on, man. I love my hat. Don't knock my hat.
I'm sorry.
We're gonna fight later. No, I know.
Hey, You be you, bro. You be you.
There's-
But it's
There's fashion statements, and then there's whatever that was. We'll just go with it and run. Don't worry about it. You know what? If you could talk for a bit, I found that audio clip
okay.
from Jonathan's voice recorder.
So did you want me to talk about the other bit in regards to this EVP, or do you want to wait until after you pull up Jonathan's voice recorder.
Go ahead and talk. I'm going to convert this and get it uploaded real quick, and then we'll go from there. So go ahead and talk. That's cool.
So going through the evidence and finding out time frames, this was about 8:45 or was 9:45. No, it's just close to 10 o'clock at night. 2012, 2013. We were back at this location in 2019. So we went back, another time, 7 years later. They had more girlfriend, I think at the time, and moved into the guest house. Had experiences. We were back there. Dennis and I were up in this area, and we caught an EVP, which we'll play after this, but we caught the same EVP 7 years later. The, oh, here we go, oh yeah, the exhale. We caught it again, which to me, in my mind, that tells me that it's a residual occurrence. And it happened about the same time of night too, between 9:45 to 10 o'clock, the same area. So, people talk, well, there's no such thing as residual, things happen, but, I was able to match up some of the words from the first original recording to the new recording, and they match up. So, which I thought was pretty insane. I mean, I've never, again, an instance I've never had that happen before, catching the same EVP 7 years apart in the same spot. And talking about how you heard it and Jonathan didn't, what was the proximity like? Did it happen closer to where you were sitting? Was it on the stairs? Was he just not paying attention? That's, we've talked about it before, like, the Johnny Cakes video, like the right. Growl, where you heard a growl, I heard what sounded like maybe a bucket. It's perception. It's where you are when it happens. So, always take your teammates into account when you hear stuff, and just take notes and work it through.
Yeah. So unfortunately, I don't have the software on this laptop. This is a different laptop that I normally use. So we'll get that for maybe, the part two. We'll do that in a couple weeks, and we'll have that ready to go. So,
well, one more thing too. The room that we were in, that's also a room that they claimed they would come home at night and the TV, they could see the TV on. They would drive up, and it's a second floor, and they could see the TV light through the window, and they know no one's been home. And they go up there, turn the TV off, and the TV would turn on by itself on occasion. They just, somebody likes watching TV up there.
Yeah.
So continue.
So I'm going to play this next one. The interesting part about this is I'm having different laptop, new internet, different location, having some weird technical issues. So I cannot hear what I'm about to play, and I don't know why. I got to figure that out. So I'm going to start playing it, and Steve's going to let me know when it's done playing. I'll stop it, and then we can talk about it. So this is the EVP, Steve, you just talked about. When we went back to the investigation in 2019, I did find out we were there in February 25th of 2012, or 2012, when we were there the first time. So we went back, I think it was around April or May of 2019 when we went back. So this is 7 years later, 7+ years later from the first time we were there. Here we go.
Okay,
guess what? I can hear it. It's a miracle. It's a Christmas miracle. Let's go ahead and play it again from the beginning and take a listen. Yeah.
And actually, too, I believe that one caught more, because the first one, remember, it said, oh, here we go. Oh, yeah. Mm-hmm. This had additional words after it that we didn't catch before. But it's still the, oh, yeah, it's identical.
Yeah, that was, let's play that again. That's fascinating. Yeah, and there's something else going on. I think that's the thing that you brought it up. We talked about the fact that when we're younger and we're first getting into doing these sort of things, today, if I hear a disembodied voice, instead of reacting the way I did, like, oh, did you hear that? Yeah, you just be quiet and just keep listening. Back then, I was like, whoa, what was that?
Yeah, is the cool reaction. It's like, wow, that's awesome.
Right.
We learn a little bit. We grow.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, that's right. We're older and wiser and more bald. So let's go back and play that again. And then we're going to, we do have one where you put the two together, just combine them. Let's start with listening to this one more time before we move on to the next piece.
So you hear there's additional words going on at the end of that.
So
And
here's
at
the
the
old
top-
one.
Okay.
Go ahead.
No, go ahead.
Let's play the old one real quick.
Did you just hear something? Did you?
So you hear, oh, here we go. Oh, yeah.
And then right when you said, "Did you hear something?" is where the additional words in the second EVP
Yep.
were picked up.
Here we go. Oh, yeah. Sorry, I just had to do it. So Steve, being the mad scientist that he is, came up with a great idea to put these two together, combine them into one, and have them playing at the same time with each other. So we're going to play that here real quick.
Did you just hear something?
So you can hear it. Go ahead.
So what that was is I took both of those EVPs, I laid them over the top of each other, and I found the correlating spot, the oh yeah, and I matched that up. So what you're hearing is two separate EVPs playing at exactly the same time.
Mm-hmm. You know, it'd be great if we could get the visualization of that sometime. You know, what software do you use for that again?
I use Adobe Audition.
Okay.
And I tried doing that because when I use the spectral frequency mode and you can see the variations,
yeah.
I did try doing it with these, but because of the fact that I was pulling video off of video camera at the time,
yeah,
it's not clear in the frequencies. So it's very muddy. It's very difficult to tell. Nothing comes across as clear as with my newer voice recorders that I have. So I'll play around with it a little bit.
Yeah, maybe
But
someday get those two together and see.
But like I said, interesting the fact that 7 years after the fact, catch, in my mind, the same EVP, the same location at almost the same time of night.
Which lends itself to perhaps a residual haunting. Maybe not necessarily intelligent, but residual, which means it's something that's energy that's just recurring over and over, cyclical. So let's play this again. These are the two combined. Listen, and then we'll talk about it after we do that one more time.
Did you just hear something?
So I do recommend for anybody that's watching this video at home, anytime you're listening to EVPs or disembodied voices or any of that stuff, it's always better with headphones. So if you're pulling these videos up and you're watching them at home, you want to go back and listen to these things, put headphones on. It's a lot easier to hear. I have noise canceling earbuds that I absolutely love that were not working for me earlier tonight when we got ready to start this. So they're sitting over here on the table instead of being used. But
and I recommend, good headphones that you can enclose because you can really get the volume up. You can really block everything out. That's my personal preference. I mean, everybody does it their own way. So,
yeah, I've got a pair of. I'm not gonna say the brand names. I don't need to have somebody coming after us for. But I have a couple of different brands of noise canceling headphones that work great when you're listening to these things. So again, if you're at home listening to any of these, I recommend you use headphones to be able to listen to them better. Anything you want to talk about as we wrap up before we get ready for the second part in a week or two?
One thing, I mean, talking about catching this EVP multiple times, and you can probably take the video off the thing so we can be big again. I
want everybody to see how old we are a little easier.
That's the grays, and yeah. One thing I would love to do, and I always wanted to go back and talk with Chris and them about this, is get back in there, set up some recorders in that area at those times of night at the same times of year, and see if we can pick it up again. Because if we're able to do it twice,
right?
I'd love to be able to confirm and just get a clean recording. Just set a recorder up there, let it go. Nobody walking upstairs, nobody talking. Because at that time when Dennis and I were there, I think Shannon and Brian, they were going down to the basement. There was a heater that was going on. We asked them to turn something off, so a door got closed and there was noise. I want to get a nice, clean environment just to see if we can pick something up. Even get them something and say, hey, every night, just from starting about 9 o'clock to 11 o'clock, just hit record and just let it sit there for a couple hours and go back and shut it off. Do that for a week, see what happens, and then we look at the evidence.
Well,
that's just personal curiosity at this point now.
Yeah, and it would be great to do that. I mean, we're coming up on the 12-year anniversary of our first visit out there, so maybe it'd be a great opportunity to do that, and we could add that to another podcast in the future if we catch anything. So you never know.
And again, we, like I said, we've been out there 3 times. You talk about the personal experiences. I know I had another personal experience in the guest house, which I thought wasn't it at one time? Wasn't it a garage they converted into a guest house?
I think it might have been. I can't remember though.
The daughter-in-law had an experience there where she felt something come up behind her. I had the exact same experience just moments later. You get that buzzing on the back of my neck when something weird happens, like you feel that hair stand up. Again, even in the guest house, for the footsteps, we're upstairs, we hear people walking downstairs. It sounds like somebody's coming up the stairs. But we'll probably get a little bit more into the guest house in part 2, which we have some good information about that.
So we'll be bringing that. If not a week from now, then 2 weeks. We're gonna Steve and I are gonna figure out when we're gonna do that and move forward. Before we get going though, a big shout out to 2 of our investigators who are moving on to bigger and better things in life. Brian and Shannon. Brian recently retired, and the 2 of them have sold their home and are moving on to bigger things. They're not going to be as close to us as they have been in the past. As always, they're always welcome distance-wise. Yeah, they're always close in the heart. But so they're not going to be able to investigate with us as much as they had in the past. We love them both very much. We're sad but excited for them for their future endeavors. We wish them the best of luck. And as always, if they are back in town and want to do an investigation, or heck, if they want to drive into town just for an investigation, we would love to have them with us again. But
or we go out there, the town that they're moving to, there's reports up there, there's apparently tombstones that glow in the dark, and there's other things and stuff like that. Even in the area, they're moving more to like the northwestern lower peninsula, like between if anybody knows Michigan, they're going to be moving up to this area right up about here. So it's another good location. Not too far from Mount Pleasant. We'll probably I'm sure that probably next year they'll probably go to Mid Michigan Paracon. Probably see them there. So
I think we should just grab the whole SPI crew and drive up and crash there some weekend without telling them. Hey, we're all here. Let's go investigate. No, they would kill us if we did that. But either way, we're sad to see them moving on, but we're excited for them at the same time. We wish them all the best of luck. So
absolutely.
All right. So with that, thank you for joining us tonight. Give us a week or two. We'll post out there when we're going to do round 2 of this, and we look forward to you guys checking on that. Some very interesting evidence, and I'm very excited for everybody to see that second part of this video.
I think after the original video went viral, which we'll show that video at that time, and we'll talk more about it, like some of the the responses and how it was received in the the community. So.
Yep. All right. Well, thanks a lot. Enjoy your evening, and we'll catch up with you guys in a few weeks.
All right. Thanks, everyone.